Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm Bob Walters. This is Locked Up Sports. Welcome to the show, everybody. A real roller coaster day for the New York Mets today. As you woke up as a Mets fan and you heard the news that overnight or early in the morning, whenever it happened, Kyle Tucker signed with the LA Dodgers $240 million for 4 years. They basically went an extra $10 million more than the Mets per year. And I don't know about you. I was upset about it. I was like, yeah, I mean, you know, Steve Cohen couldn't drop another $60 million. And I actually said that yesterday. And my wife was like, you know how ridiculous you sound right now? Because I was walking around bitching and moaning about him not being able to sing, to put out an extra $60 million. I mean, you know, like what the hell is he doing? But I was upset about it because I thought for sure they were going to get Tucker. They went with the short amount of years. They went with a large amount per year, $50 million a year. I mean, that's big money. And then, of course, at the last second, I didn't even think the Dodgers were in. I heard the Dodgers were almost out, and it was going to be basically the Mets or the Blue Jays. And I figured, you know, the Blue Jays had a long offer, but the Mets was short. They give him $50 million. He can opt out after the second year. He can opt out after the third year, and he could still get another large contract after this one. But so that's kind of how the day started, and you know, it's crappy. And then, of course, around lunchtime, maybe 1 o'clock, you hear the news that the Mets signed Bo Bichette to a 3-year, $123 million deal with opt-outs after the first year, opt-outs after the second year, and I love the deal. I'll tell you, I love it. And looking more into Bo Bichette, and I've always liked Bo Bichette. I liked him and Guerrero on Toronto. And Bichette, of course, hit the big home run in Game 7 for Toronto to give them the 3-0 lead. And, you know, he's a good player. Now, he's a shortstop originally, but he is going to move to third base with the Mets. So that basically gets rid of Beatty. They can now use Beatty in a trade, or they could use Beatty in maybe an outfield platoon position in left field if they don't get a left fielder. But hey, listen, they got to get a left fielder. They got to get a left fielder, and they got to get another starting pitcher, I think, minimum, to go into this season with a real contending chance, either in the division or anything further than that. But welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Bob Walters. And I know a lot of you have been, you know, really anti-Stearns and anti-everything he's done and anti-Cohen. Because why? Because they get rid of Alonso and they got rid of, you know, a bunch of guys. They got rid of Alonso. They got rid of Nimmo. They got rid of McNeil. And of course, Diaz walked. Alonso walked too. And I've been saying this every time I come on. I'm like, you got to let go of Alonso. All right. He got 5 years. Nobody's given him 5 years. If the Orioles are dumb enough to give a 31-year-old power hitter, one-dimensional power hitter, a 5-year deal, let it good for Pete. Good for Pete. So now we got Bo Bichette, and I'm telling you, I like Bo Bichette. He's a good ball player. He was a shortstop with not great range, which means he'll be able to shift on over to third, no problem. No problem. He'll have no problem going and adjusting and playing third base because he did play some second. He's naturally a shortstop, but he wasn't a very good shortstop. So now, and it was because of his range. So now you move him to third. I think he'll have no trouble picking it up. He's an upgrade offensively and defensively from Beatty. A big upgrade on both of the fronts there. And you could plug him right into. I saw a lineup here. I got it's up on the screen, flipping around on the right-hand side. He's going to hit third, I think. And I think that's probably the lineup. They're still a little top-heavy, just like they were last year. Last year, they were top-heavy, too. But they were kind of, you know, it's because Alvarez didn't hit. It's because Vientos didn't hit. It's, you know, and now they got basically a whole new lineup. And in the infield, I mean, how good of a left side of the infield are the Mets going to have now? Lindor at short, Bichette at third. The Mets are fantastic on the left side. Challenge you to find the 2 or 3 better than the Mets left side of the infield, both offensively and defensively. Because Lindor is fantastic defensively, and we know what he can do offensively, you know, regardless of whether his wife works for the mayor or not. You know, that's irrelevant. That seems to be another sticking point with people. Oh, Lindor's now a communist. We got a communist at shortstop. Okay. You know, whatever you say. But, you know, it's just, I love the signing. I got to tell you, I think because Listen, Tucker is good, and I talked Tucker up, so I'm not going to sit here and bash him because I did want Tucker last night, and I thought they were going to get him, and I was all excited about it. But if you look at the numbers, I mean, Bichette hits as many home runs almost as him. Tucker hits 25 to 30. Bichette hits somewhere around 20 to 25, but he gets a lot of hits. He was second in hits when he got hurt last year, only to Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge was the only player when Bo Bichette played 139 games last year. Then he got hurt. He hurt his knee. He missed the rest of the season. He missed most of the postseason. He came back in the World Series, but he had 100. He had the second most hits, and he's been like that. He gets a hit almost every day. He's a consistent hitter, which is what the Mets need. Because Lindor's a little streaky. Lindor's a better hitter and a better player than Bo Bichette, but Lindor's streaky. Like, he'll come out and he'll go 0 for April, and then he'll start kind of getting into it, and he hits real high, gets real hot at some points of the season. And listen, Lindor's great, but the Mets now, listen, it's starting to come together, right? It looked like it just a complete and utter disaster, and then last night or this morning, when Tucker decided to go to the Dodgers, you just thought, oh, that's it. Nobody's coming here. We're not going to get anybody. But you're starting to see what Stearns' kind of vision of the team is. It's going to be a defensive team. The Mets have a good lineup. Listen, the Mets have 2 Hall of Famers in the lineup. With Lindor and Soto. They have now Bo Bichette, who can hit home runs. He's kind of a gap hitter. He's an extra base hit. He's a doubles hitter. He hits consistently. And then you still got, you've got Tyrone Taylor in center field, which is a hole in the lineup. Don't get me wrong. Tyrone Taylor's an automatic out most of the time. But he's an excellent center fielder. He'll get everything out there. And then left field right now, you really don't have anybody. You're gonna have maybe Beatty, but I think they could use Beatty now in a trade. You might have Carson Benj, the kid from the minors down in the minors, who they love. They're very high on him. I haven't seen him play. I saw him in spring training when me and Brett went down there last spring training. But besides that, I haven't seen him play. But everybody raves about him. So you can put him out there. And then the pitching. The bullpen, I think the bullpen is almost better. I want to say that with because everyone's like, oh, we lost Diaz. How could they be better? The closer position, not as good. But they got a good closer. Don't forget, he was 2 years ago, he was the best closer in baseball, or the National League at least. And then Pete hit the home run. And then he went to the Yankees and he was, he picked it up late. But they got 2 arms out of that Yankee bullpen who both have very high ceilings. And if those kind of come together, bullpens are so finicky anyway. Right? You don't know what you're going to get year to year. And every one of us thought the Mets had. I just saw a Sports Illustrated cover from after, I guess right after the trade deadline it was. And it said, best bullpen in baseball, ? And it had the Mets. That's the best. And what happened? Nobody could get, none of the guys that Stearns got could get anybody out. Period. The entire time, they couldn't get anybody out in any big spots. The guy they got from the Cardinals, the side armor, forget it. They were terrible. They were the worst bullpen down the stretch in baseball. And the Mets were very top heavy with their lineup, which I still think they kind of are. You could have Brett Beatty and you could have Vientos DHing. I would much rather Vientos. I think he has a high ceiling. We've seen Vientos do this before, right? We've seen him down the stretch and in the playoffs where nobody could get him out. He had big home runs. He was killing all pitching. Didn't matter who was pitching. Vientos was getting big hits left and right every at bat. He hit the big home run against the Phillies in a game, I guess, was that game 2 or game 3, whatever it was. He got that big home run that in the comeback game, but they ended up losing the game, but he did hit a big home run. He had big home runs down the stretch. I'm okay with getting rid of Beatty. I've never been a Beatty guy myself. I just don't, for some reason, I don't like him. I don't think he's a real good player. I think he's underwhelming the entire time he's been up in the major leagues. But I would definitely, I have no problem putting him in a package, for a pitcher or a left fielder. If they could get Fernando Tatis or even Byron Buxton or even, Luis Roberts Jr., anybody like that. If you can get these guys and get them in left field and you have corner outfielders of a good corner outfielder with some power in left field, and you have Soto in right field, and you could live them with Tucker. with Tyrone Taylor in center field. You could live with that hole in the lineup there because then you got good hitters at shortstop, third base, both corner outfields, right behind the plate with, Alvarez is hit or miss. Alvarez, I have no idea what we're gonna get. Alvarez sometimes looks unstoppable. He hit that big home run against the Cubs, I think it was last year. The year before, he had 20, 25 home runs. Then he started to get hurt. And I think he's an okay catcher, but you want to see more from Alvarez. I'm not ready to give up on Alvarez. I think Vientos is going to have a rebound year. I really do. I think Vientos is due for a big year because you don't just go from that 30 home runs, just tearing up the playoffs where the pitching is obviously much better. You don't go from that to what was last year. I think last year he got off to a bad start, right? He was no good. He got big slumps, and then he just couldn't hit. He never got his season off the ground. He had maybe 2 or 3 big hits. But I think, as Mets fans, I think we could kind of, now it's time to get past the whole Alonso Diaz thing. Listen, Diaz, I would love to have Diaz back. I would have loved to have, I think the Mets screwed up there. I think they screwed up in not giving him an extra, $20 million right off the bat. Like, go to Diaz and be like, hey, he has 80 million instead of 66. They go, right off the bat, you get him, you don't let him leave the building. Like like what the Giants did with Harbaugh. You sit him down, you go, we get first bite at the apple because you're on our team, and you just overwhelm them right there. Who cares if it's another 20 million? Who cares if we overpay too? All the fans out there that are like, oh, we overpaid for this guy. Who cares? Is it your money? Is it my money? It's not my money. Ticket prices and beers and popcorn and all that stuff, that ain't going down. That's going to have a $10 million team payroll. And you'd still be paying $20 a beer. You'd still be paying $50 to park. It's not going down. So who cares? And everyone gets bent out of shape over the money. I could care less about the money. That's why we have Steve Cohen, so we don't have to worry about money. And if we get a bad deal, we could buy our way out of it. He bought his way out of Scherzer, Verlander, Cano. He's done all that already. This guy throws a ton of money just right into bad deals. If a deal is bad, he sees it's bad, bam, you're out of here. Here's your money. Get the hell out. So it's not a bad thing, The money's not a big deal. It doesn't affect anything. There's no salary cap, so who cares? But the years is what, in these contracts, is what matters. And I love that they're doing these 3 years and 4-year deals because there's nothing worse. And every team has a bunch of them. There's nothing worse than a contract that's like 8, and I'll get to Soto and why he's different in a minute, but a contract that's like 8 or 9 or 10 years, and then you hit the 6th year, and the guy sucks. He got old. And you're like, oh my God, what do we get? We got another 4 years of this? And I'm telling you, that's what the Orioles are going to get with Alonso. Everyone, for some reason online, seems to think that Alonso's going to, just be 31 years old forever. He's not. They're going to get 3 bad years out of Alonso. Guy who's running on fumes, striking out a million times, popping up, can't play the field anymore, so he's eating up your DH spot, but he's hitting, he's hitting 210. He's got 15 home runs. Forget, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to see Alonso like that, first of all. I'd much rather get rid of a guy a year or two early than a year or two late. And these contracts they inevitably are always terrible. Every single one. Every single long-term contract is terrible. They're all excited when they get them, and the fan base is all excited, and it's going to be great. And they're thinking of the player at 26 and 27 years old. Meanwhile, they signed him at 29, 30, and they got him for 10 years or 8 years. It's never going to be good. That will never be good. Unless they bring steroids back, those deals will never be good. So what you got to do is, these 3 and 4 year deals are great, right? You give them a bunch of money. What I always said is, I don't understand why they don't front load those contracts, right? Give them the $50 million for the first 4 years and then lower the AAV down the line. This way, at least you could kind of trade them, or you could let them go. It'll be less hit on your wallet. But they you're giving, like, look at Cano and look at Stanton for the Yankees, and all of them are going to be bad. And I know you sit there and you say, well, what about Soto? Well, Soto, listen, here's the deal with Soto. Here's why I'm okay with the Soto deal. Because what's going to happen with Soto is, listen, His back end of the contract's going to be bad, just like every other one of them is. Maybe the last 5 years will be bad, and we'll be sitting here, we'll be bitching and moaning about Soto. But with Soto, he's maybe one of the top players this generation. He's going to walk into Cooperstown as long as everything goes as it's been going. And we got 10 years. You got almost 10 years of his prime. So if you can get yourself a Hall of Fame player where you're going to get 8 to 10 years of the guy's prime, you hope he can lead the team to at least one title. Listen, if Soto takes us to a championship, Soto takes us to 2 championships, God forbid. I mean, I'd be okay with it. Now, listen, we're all going to still be bitching and moaning during those last 4 years going, oh, Soto, he sucks. He's not the same player. Why'd we sign him in 15 years? I get it. But in the long run, when you look back on it, you damn well will take it. And he's the kind of player that could single-handedly lead a team to the promised land. And I'm hoping he does it more than once. So I'm okay with the Soto long deal. But listen, I'm not saying Soto's not going to age. The last 4 or 5 years of that Soto deal is going to be terrible. It just is. They all are. So that's why I love the Mets going in with these 3 years, 4 years, high, big money per year, right? Big money per year, and just that's I think the new thing. And the Mets, they're looking ahead because you don't destroy your team for a championship down the road. You don't destroy your team. What you don't do is you don't want to destroy your team 5 years from now just to try and win this year. So if you have one of these long contracts like Soto, you're okay with it. If he's going to play, if he's the type of player that could possibly win a title with you guys and lead you to a title, and Soto is there's nobody else besides Judge. It's a handful of people like that. There's only a handful of players like that. Soto's one of them. So I'm okay with it. And with Alonso, listen, good luck, Alonso. Good luck out there in Baltimore. I hope he does well. But he's going to get old just like everybody else does. And power hitters who are one-dimensional, that can't really field, it's going to happen. It's going to happen in probably the next 2 years. But anyway, back to Bo Bichette. We got Bo Bichette, 3 years. Now, there's an opt-out in years 1, after year 1, and after year 2. 2 opt-outs in a 3-year deal. Now, you might look at that and be like, oh, great, we got, he could opt out. He's just going to, if he has a good enough year to opt out, then great. Because he's only going to opt out of this deal at, he's looking at, what is it? I don't even know what the number is per year, but he's making enough per year where if he has a so-so year or a decent year, he's not going to opt out because no one's going to give him the money. No one's going to give him the money that's owed to him already by the Mets. So if he opts out after the first year, that means he had a fantastic year. The Mets also have the money to cover it, right? He goes out, he has a great year, right? He has a great year. He hits 30 home runs, 110 RBIs. He gets 150, 200 hits. He opts out. That's fine. How much do you want? Cohen will say. We know he's going to throw money around. He does throw money around, regardless of what some people say about him. Oh, he doesn't throw money around like we thought. Mets have a ridiculous payroll. It's not the Dodgers, because the Dodgers are just, I don't know what the deal is with the Dodgers. And I don't know how you compete with the Dodgers. The Mets are really the only team that can. And the Dodgers just outbid them every time. The Diaz thing, like I said, I think the Mets could have done more with Diaz. But, I mean, as far as it goes with Bichette, I hope he opts out. Because that means he had a fantastic year. It means he killed it this year. And Cohen has plenty of money. Listen, he's got more money than he could spend in 5 lifetimes, even if he was trying to spend it all. And he's got a casino coming. Come on. He could if he wants to keep Bichette, if Bichette has a big year and he opts out and Cohen wants to keep him, he'll keep him. He did not keep Alonso because he's cheap. He didn't. Diaz is another thing. And Nimmo and McNeil. McNeil is shot. McNeil's a one-hit wonder. He had 1 year. Since that, it's been a nosedive right into the ground with McNeil. He used to be one of my favorite players on the team. And in like 3 years, he was terrible. He got old and he's terrible. He's a slap hitter. He has no speed. He's okay in the field. Yeah, he can play like 4 or 5 positions, but is that really a reason to keep a guy around? I don't think so. And now that you got a Lindor, Soto, Bichette, 1, 2, 3, that's as good as it gets in the big leagues as far as the top of the lineup. Doesn't get much better than Lindor, Soto, Bichette. I mean, right? You know he could hit in the clutch because you saw him hit a 3-run home run to open up the scoring in Game 7. Then you have Polanco, who I get it. Polanco's not a big star. He's not hitting the home runs all over the place, but Polanco was clutch. And if you watched any of that postseason last year, you could see that Polanco was clutch. He ended 2 games, 2 with walk-off hits, one of them in the 15th inning in the ALCS, the other one in the extra innings in the ALCS. He won 2 of those games. He almost single-handedly sent the Mariners into the ALCS. Because he hit 1 in the division series, 1 in the ALCS that were walk-off hits. He also had big hits after big hits after big hits down the stretch for them, taking them into the playoffs. So he's a guy that, he's a baseball player. He's tough. He's smart. Is he the best fielder? No. I mean, can he play first base? Probably. He'll probably be okay. He's going to be as good as Pete. He's not going to be too much worse than Pete was. And the Mets have made up, listen, now with Bichette, and they've made up the offense, I think, a lot of it at least. And they've gotten better on defensively. They are better infield. They have Tyrone Taylor, if he does play every day, like I said, he's a hole. He's a hole in the lineup. But if they get a left fielder that can get 20, 25 home runs, knock in 90 to 100 RBIs, you could live with Taylor as the hole in the lineup. And I think Vientos is going to end up being probably your DH / first baseman. And he'll probably alternate or platoon with Polanco. I think Beatty's going to be traded. I think they need a pitcher. I think they have their ace in McLean. I think we all saw that, right? I don't see him really falling off and not pitching well coming into this year off last year. I don't see like a Vientos situation there. I see he's a monster. He's a big time pitcher. He came down into New York, down the stretch at a pennant race, and he pitched his ass off and he pitched great. Like DeGrom great somewhat. So we got our ace. I think they need another top of the line starter. And Senga, if Senga is healthy, Senga's good when he's healthy. Now he's had issues, obviously. First one's Alonso's fault. That's why we kicked him off the damn team. No, I'm just kidding. But Senga's been good when he's healthy. When he's out there every 5 days and he pitches, he's good. And the bullpen, I think, has gotten better. Worse at the closer spot, but better overall. And I could be dead wrong about the bullpen. You have no idea. Bullpens, you have no idea. 1 year, this guy's great. The next year, he sucks. Then he's okay. He's giving up home run. Like, you have no idea. The Mets bullpen, the guys that they picked up at the trade deadline went from overnight, basically. Great, best bullpen guys in the league, this, that. Get everybody out, consistent, to every one of them just sucked. Overnight. Sports Illustrated had the Mets, like I told you, Sports Illustrated had the Mets, the best bullpen in baseball the day after the trade deadline. 2 weeks later, terrible. You have no idea. Because you know why? Because if these guys were good enough and they were consistent enough, they'd be starters. That's it. So they're not consistent. They're not good enough. And they all are, and they're all just all over the place. 1 year they're great, 1 year they're not good. You have no idea when it comes to a bullpen. But I think a bullpen too is something that you can fix in season. Mets try. Listen, that's what happened last year. They tried to fix the bullpen in season. They got everybody that everybody else wanted. Stearns got everybody in here that everybody else wanted. And it nosedived into the ground. That's what happened there. Now, are the Mets a better team this year than they were last year? Hold on 1 second. Okay. So are the Mets a better team than they were last year? Right now, I think they're on par with last year's team. Now, last year's team wasn't terrible, right? They were 4 games over 500. They were okay. But they just collapsed. They were so good in the first 2 months of the season that it was just, to get to 80, to get to a couple games over 500, it's really supposed to be 80. I think it's 83 and 79, not 83 and 70. So that's my bad. But for them to get to that, only 4 games over 500, it was just a complete collapse. But as far as the team, is it as talented? I think right now it's probably about as talented. I think it's probably going into the season. The pitching, we didn't have McLean and Sproat. And I think you could put Tong in the bullpen as well, which is going to help out that bullpen. So, I think they're probably just as good as they were last year right now. And if they could add a top of the line, maybe a 2, a 1 or a 2, an ace or a 2, they'll be okay. And then they need a left fielder. And they need someone that's going to hit some home runs, hit with some pop, that's going to, be a power hitter in that lineup that could be a little bit further down in the lineup. So it's just not so top heavy. So the Mets had last year. You had the top 4 guys. After you get through them, there was nobody else. Vientos couldn't hit. Beatty was hot and cold. Alvarez couldn't hit. Tyrone Taylor can't hit. And they just you bear down and get through those first 4 batters. Then after that, it was just easy. You don't want to have that again. You want to have guys consistently throughout the lineup that can hit and that can not getting runs, get guys on base, not getting runs. That's what you need. So that's pretty much it. That's what I had to say for today. So, hey, listen, make sure you check out our website. I got it right here. Hold on. Yep, there you go. LockedUpSports.net. LockedUpSports.net will be on with Brett tomorrow, probably live tomorrow morning, doing a divisional weekend Saturday show. I'm not even sure I haven't looked yet at when the games are, what games are tomorrow, what games are Sunday, but we got 4 games, divisional weekend. A lot of people think it's the best weekend of football in the playoffs or all year. My favorite is probably wild card last week's and then the championship Sunday. So you got 4 games this weekend. Make sure you check us out. Both Saturday and Sunday will be on live. I'll be with Brett. Listen, it's going to be a good time. It's a good football weekend. But because of what happened today with the Mets, I want to come on and we'll cover the whole Harbaugh and the Giants thing tomorrow. It's gonna be a fun show. But yeah, that does it. I just want to come on here, talk a little bit about the roller coaster day that the Mets had with, missing out on Tucker this morning. The disappointment of that. It was a great rebound. Big day for Stearns. Big day for Cohen. And, listen, Stearns we trust, right? In Stearns we trust. Give him a chance, people. Give him a chance. Let this team be put together before you run them out of town. All right? They might be terrible. You never know. It's the Mets. It's always the Mets, but also you got to believe. So that does it for me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning, and we got some football divisional weekend. Going to be a good time. From the Brian Gunzel Studios, I'm Bob Walters. See you.